Okay. We are live. All right. As Ren just told us, we are live. In the future, if you're not here in person and for some reason you can't tune into Zoom, we now stream live to YouTube. So we might have a YouTube audience in addition to our Zoom audience, in addition to my lovely audience. All right, let's. What to do? Where did it go? You look confused.
The main screen is 3 dots.
Yes, because I'm trying to get to my notes. All right. Sorry, too many windows. Not enough. Okay. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. This is a term that's probably familiar to some of you. It is the Unitarian Universalist seventh principle. This is a principle familiar. I want you to try to keep that in mind as we go through the rest of it. This principle I feel is most applicable to pantheism. Pantheism is a doctrine that identifies God with the universe. This title recognizes, this little recognized concept is surprisingly compatible with a diversity of religious ideals. So I can face you guys. Together, we will try to define pantheism and look at its history and relate it to all of our faiths. So to start with defining pantheism, let's start with the dictionary. Pantheism, a doctrine that the universe conceived of as a whole is God. The doctrine that there is no God but the combined forces and laws that are manifest in the existing universe. A second definition is the worship of gods of different creeds, cults, or peoples, a variety of peoples, tolerating or worshiping all gods. This is a lesser used definition, but it was actually relevant to a period in the Roman Empire. So simply said, pantheism is a doctrine that identifies God with the universe, or regards the universe as a manifestation of God. So it's derived from the Greek pan, which is all or everything, and theos, God, divine. So all is divine. Pantheism is the belief that reality is identical with divinity, or that all things compose an all-encompassing immanent God. Pantheist belief does not recognize a distinct personal deity. So their related terms in pantheism is acosmism, panentheism, monism, and animism. I'll be going over those shortly. All right. Acosmism is the, in contrast of pantheism, denies reality altogether. It's seeing it as an ultimately just an illusion. And the only identity, only the infinite, unmanifest absolutes are real. So the prefix a in Greek meaning is negative, like in English un. And conceptual versions of acosmism are found in Eastern and Western philosophies. It's talked about in the Matrix. It's what we see here with the there is no spoon, so you can do panentheism, meaning all in God. So it is the belief that the divine pervades and interpenetrates every part of the universe and also extends beyond time and space. So the term was coined to distinguish ideas about the relation of God and the universe from pantheism, where they are the same. Unlike pantheism, which holds that the divine and the universe are identical, panentheism maintains an ontological distinction between the divine and the non-divine and the significance of both. So in panentheism, God is viewed as the soul of the universe, while pantheism, all is God. So some versions of panentheism suggest that the universe is nothing more than a manifestation of God. In addition, some forms indicate the universe is contained within God, like the Kabbalah's concept of Simsum. In my opinion, this is my opinion, the differences are semantic. Pantheism is probably a term people are going to use when they're actually talking about panentheism. But these are the distinctions that philosophers debate and write great tomes about. So, monism attributes oneness or singleness to a concept, e.g., existence. The concept is often associated in opposition to dualism, like the dualism of body and soul or man and God. So monism is a common form of many versions of pantheism. Basically, we are all just one thing. Animism is an attribute that is an attribution of soul to plants, inanimate objects, natural phenomenon, and supernatural powers organizes and animates the material universe. All objects, places, and creatures have a spirit. This belief is not necessarily, but can be compatible with pantheism. If an animist belief system includes all things, if they are all connected and together, and together they constitute the divine, then that animism is a form of pantheism. If some things are not included, or if objects are separate from the spirits that inhabit them, or if these are each seen as separate gods or entities, then it is not pantheism. So you can take it or leave it. Now we're going to go through a little bit of the history before we get into the philosophy. I do want to encourage interaction towards the end. We're going to hopefully talk about this all. So history. The first known use of pantheism was in Latin panentheismus by the English mathematician Joseph Ralston and his work De Spatio Reale. I don't speak Latin, so published in 1697. Although the word has not been found before that publication, before a translation of that publication of Ralston's work in 1702. So the concept is much older than that. Pantheistic tendencies exist in a number of early Gnostic groups, with pantheistic thought appearing throughout the Middle Ages. In the West, pantheism was formalized as a separate theory and philosophy based on the work of Spinoza. In his posthumous work entitled Ethics, Spinoza wrote the last indistinguishable Latin masterpiece, that's a quote, and one in which the refined concepts of medieval philosophy are finally turned against themselves and destroyed entirely, end quote. Okay, so in particular, he opposes Rene Descartes' famous mind-body dualism and the theory that the body and the spirit are separate. Spinoza held the monist view that the two are the same, and monism is a fundamental part of his philosophy. So Joseph Ralphson in 1697 book, in that 1697 book, once again, I don't speak, I think this one's German actually. Okay, where he refers to the Pantheismus of Spinoza and others. It was subsequently translated into English as Pantheism in 1702. John Toland is an Irish writer. In his work in 1705, Socinianism, truly stated, by a pantheist. That's the title. Toland was influenced by Spinoza and Brúnn and Ralphson. So we've got a lot of names here going, but basically a lot of people were writing about this stuff. The term pantheist and Spinozist became an interchangeable term. 1720, he wrote a form of celebrating the Socratic society in Latin, envisioning a pantheistic society that believed all things in the world are one, and one is all in all things. That is all things is God. Eternal and immutable, neither born nor ever perished. All right. So moving right along to the 18th century, English theologian Daniel Waterland defined pantheism this way. It supposes God and nature, or God and the whole universe, to be one and the same, substance, one universal being, insomuch that men's souls are only modifications of the divine substance. In the 19th century, German theologian, here's where it starts to get German, Julius Wegschler defined pantheism as the belief that God and the world established by God are one and the same. So a lot of people are saying the same thing over and over again. So between 1785 and 89, a controversy about Spinoza's philosophy arose in Germany. And that is what really popularized pantheism, because people only start paying attention to him when people start arguing about things. So I'll summarize this a bit. Last name Jacobi was a critic, and last name Mendelssohn was a defender, known in German as a Pantheismus. The translation is Pantheism controversy. It helped spread pantheism to many of the German thinkers, which was very center of the Western world at the time. 1780 conversion with the German dramatist Gotthold Lessing led Jacobi, which was the critic, to a protracted study of Spinoza's work, Lessing stated that he knew no other philosophy than Spinozism. So people are arguing about this. And finally, Jacobi über die Herr des Spinozas expressed his strenuous objection to the dogmatic system in philosophy that drew up him the enmity of the Berlin group, led by Mendelssohn. So Jacobi claimed that Spinoza's doctrine was pure materialism because all nature and God are said to be nothing but extended substances. So purism, materialism in its literal form. So that was Jacobi's major argument. So basically his argument was the result of Enlightenment rationalism, and it would finally end in absolute atheism. While Mendelssohn disagreed with Jacobi, saying that pantheism shares more characteristics with theism than atheism. The entire issue became a major intellectual and religious concern for Europe. And let's bring it to the 20th century. Albert Einstein, you might have heard of him. He's a German-born theoretical physicist who developed the theory of relativity. His work is also known for its influence in the philosophy of science. He's best known for his best known in the general public for his mass energy equation equals mc squared. So in a letter written to Edward Bushing in October 1929, after Bushing sent Einstein a copy of his book, the translation of the book title is There Is No God, Einstein wrote, "We followers of Spinoza see our God in the wonderful order of lawfulness of all that exists, and in its soul." Well, he used a German word, but as it reveals itself in man and animal. According to Einstein, the book only dealt with the concept of a personal God and not the impersonal God of pantheism. In a letter written in 1954 to a philosopher, Göttking, Einstein wrote, "The word God is for me nothing more than the expression and product of human weakness." In another letter, he wrote, "I do not believe in a personal God, and I have never denied this, but have expressed it clearly." I could quote a few more things, but I'm going to advance us to talk about Carl Sagan. If you don't know, Carl Sagan is an American astronomer and things in the heavens are making themselves known. American astronomer, cosmologist, astrologist. There's a lot of ists. Author, but best known for his science as a science popularizer. In 2007, Dorian Sagan, his son, published a book entitled Dazzle Gradually, Reflections of the Nature of Nature, co-written with his mother, in a chapter entitled Truth of My Father. He declares, "My father believed in the God of Spinoza and Einstein. God not behind nature, but as nature equivalent to it." A quote from Carl Sagan: "The nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We are made of star stuff." So that has a different meaning if you think about it from pantheism. All right, there is pantheism found in many of our religions. Some hold that pantheism is a non-religious philosophy, philosophical position. To them, pantheism is a view that the universe, in the sense of the totality of all existence, and God are identical, implying a denial of the personal and transcendence of God. But pantheism is a philosophy that does not need to be the whole of one's religious view. Pantheistic views can exist alongside polytheistic, monotheistic, atheistic ones. Many traditional and folk religions, including African traditional religions and Native American religions, can be seen as pantheistic or a mix of pantheism and other doctrines such as polytheism and animism. 19th century European theologians also considered the ancient Egyptian religion to contain pantheistic elements and pointed to Egyptian philosophy as the source of Greek pantheism. The Stoics were pantheists, beginning with Zeno of Citium and culminating in the imperial philosopher Marcus Aurelius. During the pre-Christian Roman era, ideas resembling pantheism existed in East and South Asian religions, notably Sikhism, Hinduism, and Confucianism. The early Taoism of Lao Tse is also sometimes considered pantheistic. Much Hindu thought, and consequently Buddhist philosophy, is highly characterized by pantheism and panentheism. For example, the ancient Hindu philosophy of Advaita, or non-dualism, is similar to pantheism. Creondomism and Won Buddhism, which arose in the Joseon dynasty of Korea, is also considered pantheistic. Many Christians find pantheism in biblical teachings, like the kingdom of God is within you and God holds all things together. Although pantheism is mentioned in a papal encyclical in 2009, and a statement on New Year's Day in 2010, where the Pope is criticizing pantheism for denying the supremacy of humans over nature and seeing the source of man's salvation in nature. To me, that's the best argument for pantheism. In the late 20th century, we're coming into today, some declared that pantheism was an underlying theology of neo-paganism, and pantheists began forming organizations devoted specifically to pantheism and treating it as a separate religion. The Church of All Worlds, an American neo-pagan religious group founded in 1961, not to revive any ancient belief systems, but to create one based on ideology and embracing self-actualization concepts and philosophy, founded in modern literature, including science fiction. The CAW, Church of All Worlds, stated mission is to evolve a network of information, mythology, and experience that provide a context and stimulus for a reawakening Gaia and reuniting her children through tribal community dedicated to responsible stewardship and evolved consciousness. So, in an interview with Robert A. Heinlein, describing the pantheism depicted in his science fiction book, Stranger in a Strange Land, I'm going to finish this with a quote from him. That pantheistic, mystical "Thou art God" chorus that runs throughout the book is not offered as a creed, but as an existentialist assumption of personal responsibility. Devoid of all godding, it says, don't appeal for mercy to God the Father up in the sky, little man, because he's not at home and never was. At home and couldn't care less. What you do with yourself, whether you are happy or unhappy, live or die, is strictly your business, and the universe doesn't care. In fact, you may be the universe, and therefore you are the only cause of your troubles. But at best, the most we can hope for is comradeship with comrades, no more divine or just as divine as you are. So quit sniveling and face up to it. Thou art God. And all right. Now I'd like to invite discussion. So how do you find pantheism compatible with your personal belief and philosophy? Do you find them conflicting? Do you see pantheism as a religious view or as a form of atheism? The debate is open.
All right, I want to jump right into this.
I welcome it.
All right, so my own personal belief system is that God, whatever you call it, sorry, this universe isn't personal. Doesn't care what your feelings are. Doesn't give a crap. It only returns, your heart emotions. And then also, I believe that there is a spirit that runs through everything. I know through everything that's live, through everything that's not alive, like bricks and chairs. Not quite sure.
All matter has a vibration.
All matter is vibration. What would you call that on the scale?
I would say it is mostly pantheist. If you include everything, then it would definitely be.
All right. I really like that last quote from the book there, because I really, it's like,
Thou art God. The full, a lot of quote, it says, I am God, thou art God, all that groks is God. Grok is a word used in the book for a higher concept. Oh, unmute my video. What? Okay. I'm sorry. Did you not hear me? Let me start that.
No, they can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, they can't see me anyway. Okay. Where is my mouse? So, my philosophies. Pantheism is basically all things, all matter, all people. We are part of this greater thing that is the universe. This universe and all people, we have powers, we have free thought, we have free will that can manipulate the universe around us. Well, if science teaches us that time is just another dimension with space, and as we all exist in space-time, that means all the people now are part of that whole, and all the people that ever were are still part of that whole, just existing in more space. And so if we can manifest our reality, and if our devotion lets us lend our powers to something, then all of the various deities and religions are created into reality because the people that are following it and have real faith in it have that power to create the thing into reality. So they're the gods are as real as any of the individual of us are, because they have had all these different people pouring themselves into it and it into them. It's an exchange of that continuous energy. So because we have a belief in the reality, they are now a part of the reality manifest into that thing, just like part of reality has manifest into me. So I am real, you are real, so are all the other things that are there to interact with us. So I use pantheism to combine a lot of different philosophies. Dragonfly, yes. Are you muted?
So, no, I don't think so. You can hear me?
Yes.
Hear you.
Okay. So, I've
Now we
realized
can see you.
in the many years that I've been practicing my spirituality. I don't really want to call it religion, because I think, to me, religion is organized spirituality, and that's just